back with another one. So this is something I was waiting for a very long time, and it finally happened. And I didn't think it actually would happen. So A-Trak finally admitted that he did not invent scratch notation. All right, I'm gonna repeat that. A-Trak finally, after 24 years, A-Trak finally admitted that he didn't invent scratch notation. All right, so for those that don't know, if you go to A-Trak's Wikipedia, let's start right here. We're gonna jump ahead, but we're gonna jump over here. It says A-Trak began his interest in music around the age of 10, listening to the Beastie Boys, Cypress Hill, and others early 90s hip hop artists on cassettes. His brother would bring home wanting to find his own instrument to create on. He experimented with scratching records on his parents' turntable and quickly became fixated on becoming a good turntablist, finding mentors in local Montreal, like DJs like Kikwala and DJ Devious. All right. Now, if we're going to look at this, let's jump ahead a little bit more. Okay, so in the late 19... Here it is, right here. In the late 1990s, A-Trak developed a notation system for scratching. See, late 1990s, that's a lie. He totally just lied and made that up. But for 24 years, he's been telling everybody that. He told Kanye that when he was touring with Kanye that. So he's actually been affecting my career for the past 24 years about lying about my notation. So he's been trying to plagiarize my notation for the past 24 years, and he's finally admitted it. So in the late 1990s, A-Trak developed a notation system for scratching. And we're going to show that he's actually lied on different videos where he's actually backtracked and said different dates. Okay, so it says in the late 1990s, A-Trak developed a notation system for scratching. He gave a lecture about it at the ScratchCon 2000 conference and published an article in Tableist magazine. So for people that don't know, at ScratchCon 2000, that was the first time that A-Trak had ever told anybody that he had a notation system. And at that ScratchCon, he admitted that he had seen my notation system before that. He had seen it beforehand. So that he proved. So we're gonna go through all the videos today. There's a lot of content, a lot of stuff to read, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of press outlets that A-Trak and his publicity team have given misinformation, telling them that he invented scratch notation for the past 24 years. So this has been part of his press kit for the past 24 years. Him, basically trying to jack my whole legacy. And what's interesting is that my homie Clever won DMC in 2000 of that year, and I was chilling with Clever that night. I think that was Irving Plaza. He won at Irving Plaza, and we all went to IHOP after he won. And A-Trak was right there in my face the whole time at IHOP, and he didn't say one word to me the whole time. So that's, and we're gonna get into this stuff as well, like the A-Trak and duck sauce and masonry and all that type of stuff. But so let's go back to here. So this is the sheet of paper that if y'all ever saw A-Trak in the DMC way back when he won it as a kid, as a child prodigy, and also even though he's been plagiarizing my work for the past 24 years, let it be known that he is a dope DJ. Somebody could be a dope DJ and they can also be a liar, right? And they can also be a thief. This is the actual. On January 18th in 2021, I had totally missed this because I don't keep up with his posts. A-Trak finally admitted that this is what he had in front of him, when he was a kid at that DMC. Now, a lot of people thought that, because he said he had notation on the paper, and this is the actual paper, and you see there's no notation on it. This is just him, this is him keeping a list of different types of cuts. Yeah, and at that time, a lot of DJs, when we would make a mixtape, we might write, De La Soul right here, Tribe Called Quest right here, Jungle Brothers right here. You might write down, the songs that you're gonna drop, even the speeds. I used to write down plus 3%. I gotta, when I drop that, when you make mixtapes back in the day, before we had all this new technology that could just sync and whatnot. All right, so you can see right here. So this is what he had in front of him. Let's go to the actual picture. So this is, the actual DMC. And you can see right here, you see that piece of paper right there. So that piece of paper was right there. And for years, for 24 years, ever since ScratchCon 2000, because this was what, the 96, this was the 97 DMC, right? Because I feel like 96 was Rock Raider and Swamp that year. So this was, must have been 97 DMC. And that little piece of paper right there, see that it just fell off. He's been telling everybody that it was my notation written on that paper, but it wasn't. It was this right here. This is what he wrote. All right. Now, so I'm going to read what I first wrote. I wrote an essay on this last year, so I'm going to read what I wrote. So let me see. And we're going to go through all the videos. We're going to go through all the evidence, and so that everything is totally clear, that you can see exactly what happened. So let's see. So it says, wow, A-Trak snitched on himself and finally admitted that he did not invent Skratch notation in 1996. For 23 years, A-Trak has been telling thousands of press outlets and millions of fans that he invented DJ Radon's internationally recognized TTM Skratch notation. We're going to have to send A-Trak a formal cease and desist at this point, given that he has partaken in plagiarism and libel for over 2 decades. What happened? After releasing the world's first book on Skratch notation, The Fundamentals, 1999, and TTM 1.0, released on February 17th of 2000, DJ Radon gave the first lecture on the subject of turntablist notation in front of NYU's music school on April 12th, 2000. So that was the first ever actual lecture on Skratch notation, and we're going to go into that little excerpts from that today as well. So months earlier, Radon had applied to the Dirt Style Global Skratch Foundation college scholarship by submitting his Skratch notation and a video of him scratching. So, one of the main reasons I actually submitted my Skratch notation to Dirt Style was for the scholarship that they had put out. So they awarded me with the scholarship at ScratchCon, but they wouldn't let me speak at ScratchCon. Kubert and then wouldn't let me speak, and they let A-Trak take the credit for what I invented at ScratchCon that they're giving me an award for. At ScratchCon he just completely plagiarized the whole book. And remember, John and Ethan had helped me publish the book. They didn't write the book. I wrote everything in there. I wrote I did all the Skratch notation, the transcription of Rob Swift's routine, everything that's in Skratch the movie. And remember, John didn't invite me to Skratch the movie. So you can see, you can see what's, happened over the past 24 years as far as people trying to claim credit of my work. But at least now that, it's 24 years later, heads that are real Skratch heads know, the truth, because it's like obvious. None of them are teaching it. None of them are dropping it. None of them are using it. None of them, can still even explain it properly. All right, so let's get back to this. So DJ Radon won the DJ Kubert Skratch Legendary Award, yet was blocked from presenting his TTM notation system. That same day, A-Trak made his first presentation of a plagiarized version of DJ Radon's TTM system, and even admitted that he had seen Radon's system before his presentation. So that was the nail in the coffin back then. A-Trak also told the public that he invented this system in 1996 with no proof. All right. Then 3 years later, at a Red Bull music lecture in South Africa, A-Trak admitted that he had only came up with his system a few years ago, which verifies his plagiarized presentation on July 1st, 2000. A-Trak fans had seen the sheet of paper in his famous 1996 winning DMC battle routine, yet never saw what was on the paper. So we're going to talk about that today. Assuming it must have been Skratch notation. A few years ago, A-Trak finally released a sheet of paper, Exhibit A, where we can finally see that there is no TTM notation on it and it's simply a list of different scratches to cover in his routine. In the 90s, before DVS and playlists, it was a common practice for DJs to write down their battle routines or DJ set selections. And given that this was, February 8th, 2023. Given that it's Black History Month and TTM was invented by DJ Radon, a Black American DJ, it's important that the actual creator of the system gets credit. For centuries, Black inventors had their technologies stolen. Skratch and Labs included, right? And shout out to Z Sonic. We're actually going to be doing an interview of him and 100 Days of TTM lecture on him as well. And all the 100 Days of TTM lectures that were just Instagram written lectures, we're going to be giving them I'm sorry, the written lectures, we're going to be giving them play and video as well. So I'm going to be making video versions of all the 100 days of TTM written lectures. So they're going to be actual video lectures as well. So everybody, shout out to all the fans of the 100 days of TTM series. And there's many more TTM composers out there, more than 100. So we're going to keep focusing on different TTM composers that have been changing the world, even the ones that have been trying to plagiarize it, because A-Trak's included in that, right? Because all right. And what's interesting is that Tableist magazine, when Wikipedia was talking about Tableist magazine, that's a magazine that him and the allies put out. And I actually had a column in Skratch magazine in 2005, 2004ish, where I was transcribing different scratches every month. And what's funny is he was on his name was written on the cover of one of those. I think maybe the one with Kanye West on the cover. But we'll go into that stuff later. But so let's and there's another error on his thing here too. It says he was part of the Skratch Pickles, which is true, but it says the Skratch Pickles are defunct on this somewhere, and obviously the crew's gotten back together. See, A-Trak was an honorary member of the pioneering and now defunct DJ crew, the Invisible Skratch Pickles. So we know Pickles are back together, and Wikipedia needs to be updated. So if you're a Wikipedia admin, please update this, and also please fix the notation thing, because we're going to show here that people can just say anything on Wikipedia with no proof, right? All right, so yeah, so let's go to here. All right, so let's read what he has to say first. He said, "Let's open up the old archives. This is how I saw scratching back when I was young, when I was a young teen. How I visualized it. I ended up coming with the notation system." So he's not saying when. So there's actually two things here. For context, every day I would come home from school and work on my cuts. I was building up an arsenal of patterns and combos. You can compare this to a drummer working on paradiddles or a jazz musician learning scales and licks, etc. But I had a problem. I had this whole vocabulary, and then when I'd practice freestyling over beat, I kept repeating the same handful of cuts. I needed a way to keep track of all my new combos. I needed an inventory. So the first thing I did was naming them. And I kept a list, which is the first pick. So a lot of people used to ask me about the video of my 1997 DMC championship winning routine. There was a yellow piece of paper that kept sliding off. See the last two slides, and I showed that to you already. That was one of those lists. Later on, I came up with an actual notation system that was more scientific. So right here, he's snitching on himself again. So because in 2000, he said that he invented my system back then in 97. And now here he's saying later, right? Later on. He says later on I came up with the actual notation system. He's not saying when. And he says in 2000, when I was 18, I did a presentation at a conference called ScratchCon 2000, organized by the Invisible Skratch Pickles, right? And that's where I released my book for the first time at ScratchCon, but we had already released the book in February of that year, and ScratchCon was in July 1st of 2000, that summer at Yerba Buena in San Francisco. And also, yeah, shout out to everybody in the Bay. I'm actually going to be out there. I think Mills College is going to be having me. So if you're a promoter or anything like that, and you want to book me, just holler. You can just DM me, whatever. Yeah, so it says it's on YouTube. I'll link it in my stories. It's very nerdy. I got heckled during the presentation by a couple DJs who felt that scratching shouldn't be so dorky. It should be a feeling. They're not wrong. Anyway, I'm glad I kept my notes. I feel like one of these could go on a T-shirt, right? Like there's not already T-shirts and I've been doing this stuff for so long. It's just it was just really funny at the time to see all that happen, because I was very young as well. In 2000 I was 21, so I'm just like 3 years older than him. But yeah, so we're gonna go all the way back. We're gonna take it all the way back. All right, so we're gonna actually show this. Let's see. I think I had uploaded this part to it. Let's see. All right, so let me actually let's play it from this thing. I think I had where's the actual? Let me see. Should I play it? Yeah, I'm just going to play this thing. So let's just play this, because this is a video I made years ago. This is before he admitted that he didn't do it. And so I'm going to play this video.
Alright, so I'm here to talk about my notation system for scratching. So to start off, I'll just tell you people the story about how I came up with this, because it'll give you an idea, right?
And notice his body movements. You know, when people are lying, you know, you can, you know, hear certain inflections in their voice sometimes, or, you know, they start twiddling with their hands, fiddling with their hands, things like that. Notice the body movements. Yeah, so let's play this.
Right away, in which situations this type of system is useful. It was around, I think it was 96. I was trying to remember when this happened. I think it's around 96.
So that was 2000. On July 1st, 2000, A-Trak, in 1996, he invented TTM, my notation system.
A few years ago, I came up with this notation system.
So then at Red Bull Music in 2003, 3 years later, he said he came up with this a few years ago. So, right, these two things are he's lying, right? Because he says, I think it was around 96. So he's saying it's 96. In 2000, he was saying it was 4 years earlier. And then in 2003, instead of saying it was 7 years earlier, he said it was a few years ago, right? Alluding to when he first presented his plagiarization of my system in 2000. All right, so we're going to keep this playing.
It was kind of something I stumbled upon.
And notice how he said stumbled upon with kind of a joking kind of smirk in his voice.
It was around, I think it was 96. I was trying to remember when this happened. I think it's around 96.
And notice, look at his hand right there. When
it was 96. I was trying.
Notice how he's grabbing his hand, grabbing his wrist. Notice those little body movements.
I don't remember when this happened. I think it's around 96. A few years ago, I came up with this notation system. It was kind of something I stumbled upon.
Oh, and this thing is wrong right here. This is supposed to say 2000, not 2001. That was a little error. On Facebook, the error is fixed, but on YouTube, the error is not fixed. But let me see. So let's see. All right. So which one was it? 7 years ago. Whoops.
I'm gonna give away this incredible.
Let's turn this thing down.
$4,000. Wait.
All right. So let's push this back. So it says. So which one was it? 7 years ago or a few years ago? Furthermore, where's the proof before July 1st, 2000? So before July 1st, 2000. A-Trak has no proof of any of this, you know, and people just, you know, letting the Wikipedia fly. You know, he's we're going to go through the periodicals he's contacted. His publicity team has contacted hundreds and hundreds of periodicals. So imagine me sending out a press kit when, you know, A-Trak's already sent a press kit to that same festival or periodical or whatever. You know, it's like, it really does affect my paper. You know, A-Trak's been literally affecting me and my family's paper for the past 24 years. And that's why it's just a godsend that he finally, you know, snitched on himself. You know, because he was snitching on himself back then, but now he is pure evidence. You know, he's actually putting the evidence out there of how he snitched on himself. All right, so this is the fundamentals from 1999. This is the book that I gave. This is the first book on Skratch notation. I gave this to John Carluccio and Ethan Emboden before we worked on my second book called TTM 1.0. And then, so this was the first lecture that I gave on Skratch notation. So this is the world's first recorded lecture on Skratch notation on April 12, 2000. So a couple of months before A-Trak presented a plagiarized version of my notation system. All right, let's see, make sure this is up. All right, so I'm gonna press play.
And we're gonna talk about it. So, Deciphering kernel is devised a way to notate turntable performance. And we're gonna talk about it. So, turn it over a bit. Okay.
So this is months before ScratchCon. So this is proof that, I already had 2 books. I presented both of my books within this presentation, and and it predates everything he's done. And at ScratchCon, he actually admits that he had seen my system before he even presented his system, which means he obviously plagiarized the system.
Myself, I invented a system of transcribing DJ music, that's all forms of DJ music, from mixing clubs all the way to turntablist DJ Skratch.
Yeah, they chart this stuff like music. They call it TTM.
Turntable transcription methodology. The graph represents sounds, right?
Since the turntable is a circle, okay, it can be broken into degrees. And
Yeah, it's been featured on CSI. The Leicestershire primary school system in the UK uses it. It's used in dissertations all around the world. My system is very, very standardized.
Here you see the standard unit circle right here that you learn in trigonometry, algebra class, whatever. And here we go. You can see that any sample on a record can be broken down into a number of degrees of angle. So if people don't know what a record really is, it's just an audio file that's just spun all the way around, all the way into the center of the record. So it's like a spiral going all the way around it. So for any sample that's on the record, it can be broken down to a number of degrees. So
that was one of my favorite records at the time. Little Johnny from the Hospital. Shout out to LP, one of my favorite producers. Company Flow, one of my favorite groups.
I've got 90 degrees at the top right here, and I've got 0 degrees at the bottom. So this is the origin right here.
This is me going over my first book, The Fundamentals. So this is the first book on Scratch notation. I wrote the first 2 books on Scratch notation in existence before A-Trak even presented his lecture.
To the right, you can see that this is time, and as you go upwards, this is degrees. So really what it breaks down to is that scratching is really the change in degrees, the displacement of any particular point which you start measuring from.
This is the main idea here.
And we see A-Trak presenting the exact same thing a couple months later, trying to claim that it's his.
Is to draw the scratches with the record movement as a function of time. So I don't usually draw the horizontal axis and the vertical axis like I did on top there. This is just to explain the principle.
So this is the exact same thing. It's the displacement of the record over time, the change in degrees over the time, or the movement of the record over time, or you could say the change in of the cue point over time, right? It's 4th dimensional notation.
This is time, and as you go upwards, this is degrees.
The horizontal axis is time, and I divide it into beats and then into bars. And the vertical one, as you can see, is the position of the record.
So in this example, Fresh is played a little bit, and then somebody holds it for a period of time, and then lets it go again, and it plays out.
So I'm talking about this one right here, where you can see it. The song is playing. It's going for, and then somebody holds it, and then they let it go, and it goes esh.
And then so that means so basically positive slope going upwards. That's the record playing forward, and then downwards is the record going backwards. And if it's just if it has no slope at all, that means the record's just being held still. And a completely vertical line like infinite slope, that's impossible really, because the record can't go amount of distance in no time at all. So there's certain. You got your hand raised?
Different distances on the inside of the record and on the outside. Like Skratch will take up maybe 35 degrees on the outside, and then maybe even 280 on the inside tracks.
Well, the degrees are always going to be the same. The arc length is what you're talking about. The arc length of the thing, of course, will always be changing as you get into the record, but the degrees won't change. And we at first I thought of doing it like that, of using the arc length, but the arc length is always changing. So it's actually, so you're just using the degrees, so the degrees aren't changing, but the actual arc length is changing. So,
but what I wrote here is this translates with the angle of the line that I draw. If it's a
So
high,
you can see it's the exact same thing, right? It's just the change in degrees over time. And a higher slope is a higher pitch, lower slope is a lower pitch, just like architecture.
pitch scratch, then it's like a push on the record. So there's a significant record movement over like a small period of time. So the line.
So you can see this is an exact copy. He's showing one up high, we're showing up one low. I have one up high, I have one low.
Is at an important angle, whereas
And at the time I was like, why? You know, I didn't understand why they didn't let me speak there. You know, they shouted my name out and gave me the award, but they didn't let me speak, and I was like, huh, what's going on? And then when I saw him present my exact same system, I was like, what's going on? I was just totally confused.
if it's a low pitch scratch like this,
Because I was young, I didn't think people would like bite me that on the same day that I'm being given an award. You know, it was just kind of confusing for me because I was so young. Like, I just didn't think somebody would just be that low, that they would be like, okay, we're going to give you an award for creating this system, but we're not going to let you talk about it or present it. We're going to have somebody else, one of our homies, you know, who was down with the pickles at the time, try to take, you know, credit for it. And they ran with it. So for years, you know, Kubert was acting like A-Trak invented it, and he was using A-Trak's notation, when in reality, he was using my notation. And Kubert finally admits it now that it's my notation, you know, but for years, Kubert wouldn't admit it, you know, for decades, you know, at least the first decade up to 2010, you know, people thought it was either, you know, A-Trak or whoever, you know.
you're barely moving the record, so the line will be at a much smaller angle. Well, I'd like to point out first of all that I've seen a few other scratch notation systems.
And that's where he snitched on himself. That's where A-Trak put his own nail in his own coffin. He snitched on himself by, you know, if you're giving your first presentation on something that you say you invented years ago, and then at that presentation you're saying you already saw the same exact system, you know, beforehand, you're obviously admitting to the public that you plagiarized the system.
A few years ago, I came up with this
So let's rewind one more time.
scratch notations. Well, I'd like to point out first of all that I've seen a few other scratch notation systems. A few years ago, I came up.
So, and at that time, he was talking about my system, then he's talking about DJ Radar Antimatter. You know, he put out Antimatter, and Radar didn't actually write that. Actually, Raul, the composer, wrote it all. And then Radar tried to kind of claim it, that like he wrote the classical music notes for it, but he didn't, you know. And I mean, he performed the piece, but Raul, the composer, is the one, and that's why they're not working together. Raul doesn't mess with it anymore. Even Radar doesn't even mess with the notation ever since then. But shout out to Radar, because, you know, he's, you know, a very seminal artist as far as, you know, loop pedal, you know, turntablist producer technology, right? Making live tracks, right?
With this notation system. It was kind of something I stumbled upon. Well, I'd like to point out first of all that I
see, and a lot of people don't know that when rappers rap or people are talking, you can see sometimes their facial expressions through what they're saying. Like, you know, like if I say the word, if I'm saying I'm walking down the street, but right now I'm smiling and saying, I'm saying I'm walking down the street. It sounds different when my mouth is open and I'm smiling, right? So, you know, you can hear little smirks, you can hear, you know, things in his voice. You know, there was a smirk in his voice when he says, I kind of stumbled upon this.
I've seen a few other scratch notation systems, and some of them, I find, in my opinion, use too many symbols and it becomes confusing. And I don't think we should have to learn how to read a notation system. I think we should be able to look at it and visualize and understand what it is. So the only cases where I use symbols is to avoid confusion. For example, the most obvious case, I think, is crabbing. So
instead of putting, like, you know, 3 dots or 4 dots, you know, at different distances from each other, and connecting them like we do in TTM notation, so you know that the clicks are connected with the fingers and not just clicks that are done without connecting the fingers. He's putting this symbol up there to show that.
I drew a little crab. to explain, where my
And many people, when they write TTM notation today, they're still using this kind of A-Trak method of TTM, of not putting click symbols, just putting a line going through it. But from a mathematic perspective, that's a line going this way makes no sense, because the line is supposed to be going up and down, not at an angle like that, right? That's not mathematic sense, because this thing is occurring before this is occurring. Really, the only
symbol for the crowd came.
The only point that matters is where it actually intersects with the line, right? So if there was a line there, it should be drawn like vertically, right? But it gets the point across. You see that the line is cut up into 3 equal pieces, or this one 4 equal pieces, right? The forward and then the backwards, right?
Because let's say you're doing, for example, a 3-click crowd player like this.
And then I show where he got that symbol for him. It's a Taurus symbol, bull symbol, right? Venus, it's used in astrology, right? It's also the alchemical symbol for congelation, right? Like something congealing.
Hey, what's up? It's Set Beats and 4 them.
All right, these commercials are annoying me.
Time. It's for free.
Let's just wait for that. Okay, there we go.
Included.
There we go. All right. Whoops.
So right here, and a flare, would sound like this. So if somebody wanted me to decipher here. And so this, in this flare, in the composition of this flare, the black dot means that I'm clicking at the point in time that's adjacent to it on the x-axis, and the second black dot means the same thing. So, and you can see that in one movement there's a back in this one scratch there's a backwards and forwards movement. So you can see this one wave, this one bump, that's just like. But when I add those 2 black dots there, those clicks, that's what it sounds like. And all these scratches right here are separated by these white circles, and those represent just the open fader position, and those are just to separate scratches from each other.
And notice how, remember, A-Trak was saying, oh, it's too many symbols, and notice how he doesn't use curves as well, because it's like, when humans scratch, we're not doing digital toggles like on a CGJ where you're just going forward, backwards. If you ever try scratching like that using the reverse switch on like a CDJ, and you do digital toggles, it doesn't sound the same as actual real scratching, right? Because that's just a straight line going forward and straight line going backwards, just changing direction automatically. But scratching doesn't do that. It takes time to change direction. You have to slow down to change direction, and then it takes time to speed up again anytime you change direction. And the open fader symbols are needed to be able to differentiate, open fader sounds where you can hear the w, the beginning of the sound starting up, versus if it was just a crossfader click like a transform, you're not going to hear all that, because the bleed, like the curve on the crossfader is going to cover up a lot of that area when there's a click there. Even if the click is a little small black dot, the black dot is actually bigger because it actually, takes up a lot of time, right? Especially if you have a horrible mixer that doesn't have a sharp cut. The less sharp the cut, the bigger the black dot's going to be, and more of the sound is going to be cut off of that change of direction woof sound. So with this flare, you have the wooka, and then the change of direction again, wooka, right? It makes 4 sounds.
Because
right, and so A-Trak, in his speech, he's saying he saw my notation, thought it had too many symbols, so he made something that it looks exactly the same. Just he wasn't drawing a grid like this. He was just drawing it on the same type of axis type of thing.
Scratches.
And he wasn't writing the name on the side.
When you join all of them together, they could eventually look like a whole bunch of clicks, which you wouldn't be able to really decipher. You really wouldn't be able to decipher what's really going on.
Well, I thought since the crossfader is only used to add nuances or to add cuts or to complement the sound, which is...
And look, this is what he told Vogue magazine. We're going to go through the different fashion magazines and just all the magazines that he lied to, right? It says DJ producer, international icon of Elaine A-Trak Malkovich, 29 years old, is a man with multiple roles, born in Montreal. He's a resident in New York, achieved his first worldwide recognition in 97, becoming the youngest ever at the time he was 15 to win the super coveted DMC World DJ Championships in a short time. He also was awarded the other two most important sector competitions, ITF and Vestax, and a creator of the first notation, the first system of notation for DJ scratching ever developed. So it says creator of the first system of notation for DJ scratching ever developed. It's a weird translation. It's Italian people. This is Vogue IT, Vogue Italy. This way, the work of a DJ can be read like any other sheet music. He achieved success after success, launching a DJ tour as a soloist and collaborating with Kanye West. Today, his name is the synonym for music, fashion, and the most avant-garde art scenes in the world. All right.
The turntable, I decided to just notate the cuts from the crossfader as slashes on the line representing the record movement.
So instead of a dot, he just has a little slash, just like the other little slashes with his clicks.
So if you look, for example, at my one-click orbit here, these are the slashes on the line are clicked.
And look, he's got a little thing. He said he saw this before his presentation. And now he's doing, and then his presentation is the same thing, but it's just not smooth. It's not showing, because it's like some scratches are stiff like this, where it's a very stiff curve, and then some scratches are very smooth. And you can do a flare with sharp curves. You could do a flare with very smooth curves, especially if the sound is a small amount of sound that you're dealing with. It's going to be usually more smooth, all right? But you can see this is literally plagiarized. He literally saw this. He saw this right here, and then he put together a seminar for ScratchCon, right? He didn't have this in 96. He didn't, we saw what he had in 96, right? And let's go back to that, too. Let's go back to that. So this is what he had in 96. You can see this is real. You can see he wrote on it with different types of pens and this is pencil, right? Let me see some different types of pens, right? But let's go back to here. All right, so we saw the presentation at ScratchCon. That's notes from his presentation. So then he's saying that, so that sheet of paper, that was what he was saying was what he had at 96. Now this, we have no date on this, right? We know it wasn't from 96 because it wasn't in that video, all right? Or 97, whatever that DMC was, because yeah, that was the 1997 DMC. We know it wasn't in that video, but this is the same thing. This is him writing down just different names of scratches, and writing down different names of things is not a mathematic notation system. It's it's called taxonomy. Taxonomy is the art of basically naming things, right, and categorizing things. That's basically taxonomy. So this is taxonomy. So he did not create a methodology. This is just taxonomy, just using language, right? Because it's not telling you how long these scratches occur for, with these scratch, how they look different from each other. You know what I'm saying? It's just purely words. Some of them are talking about the direction, but we don't know when he actually wrote this, and we don't even know if he wrote this recently, because if you actually look at this right here, this looks like it's fake right here. Like I'm a very, very skilled Photoshop person. The first book on scratch notation actually did that in Photoshop, because I didn't even know how to use Illustrator yet. And my second book, TTM 1.0, I did that in Illustrator once I learned how to use Illustrator. But as a Photoshop person, if you go into this, you can see little erasure of some pencil marks here. But then all this text seems to be very, very bold and very, very uniform. You know what I'm saying? As almost as if it was put on there later, because it doesn't really bleed in. Like this looks like it was written on it with it, kind of bleeds in well, but all these other ones that just seems kind of weird. It seems like everything is super, super popping 20 years later, 24 years later, or if he's saying this is from 97, 27 years later, this seems very the blue pen seems a little bit too bright, right? You would think that it would look a little bit different from that, and then this is the stuff that he presented at ScratchCon. So it says scratch notation system, right? And why is he just showing all this stuff now? Like he didn't have any proof of this before 2000, before my system was already out. Because at ScratchCon, we actually put books. We gave them free TTM books. So everybody that went to ScratchCon, when they got their grab bag and they left, it had my second book of notation in there, right? It didn't have any A-Trak book because he didn't have a book yet, because he had seen my book and then plagiarized it and then presented his lecture at there, and then only spoke about it like one or two more times, at Red Bull, and then whatever, and then to all the magazines and his press releases for the past 24 years. Right, so you can see, look, this is a one-click orbit. This is transforming. We all know this is TTM notation. Forward is upward slope, backwards is downward slope, and we got little click symbols. Right, that's TTM notation. Right, all right. So we can see that this is just purely plagiarized. All right, see, purely. So this is saying hydroplane. He's drawing like an airplane. This was all just him trying to add some extra stuff. He saw my crab symbol, then he's like, oh, how can I do something different? So he made a little crab symbol instead of, connecting the dots together like TTM notation does, right? So you can see the difference between a crab or a twiddle. Twiddle's using 2 fingers. You know what I'm saying? Whereas the crab's doing 3 fingers, because, and then the thing is, you can do multiple finger crabs. You can do more than one hand. You could do a 6-finger crab. You can do literally, you can do an 8-finger crab. You can do 4 fingers followed by 4 fingers all in one long line. This thing that he tried to plagiarize my system with is really vague, and people laughed at it when they saw that at ScratchCon. They actually laughed at this. All right, so let's go back to this.
Clicks from the fader, and as you can see, I wrote that when I release the record, it's a double line. When I still have my hand on the record, it's a single line. So the little example that I have there is a baby scratch like this. Then I drew some chirps.
So he basically just, instead of a click symbol, he has a line, and then when it's a release, you have a double line. That's the only thing. That's him saying like, oh, this is a whole new system. That's like me taking the English language and putting an accent over a couple of letters or over a letter, or changing the dot and the I to a slash and calling it a whole new language, something that I invented. That'd be plagiarism.
And as you can see, the notation allows us to see when a scratch is started with the fader open or the fader closed. The chirp is started with the fader open. So obviously you don't see any clicks from the fader, any slashes on the line on the drawing of the chirp. Same thing for one click there, which is started with the fader open. You can see it, and it's just a real easy way, I think, to understand scratches when you see them like this. Let's say someone's trying to explain to you a scratch. If he draws it in front of you, and you see like where the fader is, what you do with the record, where everything fits in together, it's just one way that I thought would be good to visualize scratches.
All right, so
this is at the same event. You see DJ Flair in the back when DJ Flair and Qbert were still cool, and then here's
where's Raymond Pirtle? Let's give it up.
Right, so
He's right up there, Raymond Pirtle.
Greetings, my name is Ray. I go by DJ Radon,
and obviously Qbert's right here off camera. You can see Qbert standing right over here. But yeah, they presented me. They had this organization called the Global Skratch Foundation at the time, and they gave me a $1,000 scholarship. And I took that $1,000 and I bought a $1,000 Vestax 07 Pro ISP edition. So I basically gave the money back, right, to them in Vestax.
Greetings, my name is Ray. I go by DJ Radon, and I'm out here in Cartagena, Colombia. It's really great.
All right, but so let's go back to this, because this is, they presented me with the DJ Qbert Skratch Legendary Award for my system, but didn't allow me to present my system and let A-Trak present my system and try to claim it.
Let's give it up. He's right up there, Raymond Pirtle.
Greetings, my name is Ray. I go by DJ Radon, and I'm out here in Cartagena, Colombia. It's really great to be here with the Next Level 3.0 program, and we've got a wonderful group of students, and I'm really excited to be doing this.
Every BPM
every speed of a record creates its own geometric shape. So 100 beats per minute is a triangle. How did I create my system? In 1999, I devised a system of notation for DJ music called the turntablist transcription methodology. And I was basically just using trigonometry to describe the movement of the record over time.
All right, so when I created TTM Academy in what was that, like 2013 or 2012? I guess that was 2013. Part of it was to clear up everything, because I'm like looking on the internet, people are trying to say, you know, A-Trak invented my notation. Even people were trying to say Chile invented my notation. Chile, DJ Chile, and shout out to DJ Chile, and also check out his new video. He's got 2 new videos that he just dropped. He hadn't dropped anything in 7 years, and he just dropped 2 new tutorial videos. But also notice too on his videos that I think both of his videos have like 1,600 views now. He's got about 4,000, maybe 4,500 subscribers, where I got like maybe 7,000 subscribers. If I drop a tutorial video, I'll get like 100 views. So either people just don't hate my tutorials, my own TTM tutorials from the source, or YouTube is obviously shadow banning my TTM notation while they're promoting his. Like even Simon Hargraves gets shadow banned. Like he'll do an amazing TTM lecture and they won't show it to that as many people. But so why is that? Anytime I post a TTM lecture, a Skratch notation lecture, I never get 1,600 in a couple of days. Maybe after a couple of years I'll get 1,600, but it just goes to show for when you have like I was saying before, when you have a black hand in the thumbnail, the YouTube algorithms can actually sense what your racial caste is or your ethnicity is, and it can actually promote or block your video based on that. So if they feel that DJing science and is kind of a British kind of accent art form, and twerking and stuff like that should be associated with black people, then if you have a black person in the thumbnail, they're going to push that thumbnail towards twerking stuff. If you got the white hand in the thumbnail, they're going to push that thumbnail towards education and excellence and things like that. So just be please look at those numbers, because anytime I drop a Skratch notation video, I never do the numbers of all of my students who drop Skratch notation videos who have way less subscribers. And that's just me talking about algorithm mathematics. It's not saltiness. So shout out to Chile for all his work and his book, his cross rhythm book. I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a review of his book. I'm gonna do a review of his lectures. I'm gonna do a review of all my students' lectures. Right. All right. As we go forward. All right. So I think that's the end of that. Oh wait, there's something at the end.
So also, if the sound is cut off completely with the fader, I just don't draw the line at all. So for stabs, they look like that. And then at the end, I put a release.
See, look, stab. There's no line. It's just a line drawn. Exactly the same thing. Exactly. So now let's look at the ramifications of what everything happened, and as I was just talking about how race and politics and things kind of tie into this. Me being born in '79, being a 45-year-old, I'm the actual first free person in my family that was been able to go to schools with the Caucasian diaspora. So everybody, all my family members before me, people born before '68, they didn't have equal rights. We were living under apartheid here in the U.S. Right? We didn't even have U.S. citizenship as in equal rights, not just citizenship as in like naturalized, but citizenship as just being able to go to that school or buy that house or do that thing. And then also there's a connection between Masonry, European Masonry, and with as far as the Scottish Rite, New York Rite, and and slavery. You know, many slave masters, or I hate to say slave masters, I'll say many human traffickers of that era during the slavery wars were actually Masons. And actually, you know, one of my great 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 grandfathers was a black Mason who was shot in the back of the head coming from one of his lodge meetings. So, you know, usually, you know, in America, the Caucasian lodges and the black lodges, I don't know if this guy is a clandestine black lodge guy, but, you know, usually the lodges are very separate, and the Caucasian lodges view the black lodges as clandestine. They call it clandestine, or meaning not real, basically. And, you know, but usually the black lodges kind of work underneath the Caucasian lodges, right? And, over the past, 30 years, or you know, ever since, really, I would say, I guess, Prodigy, rest in peace, Prodigy, and, you know, Mobb Deep, kind of shining a light on kind of opening people up to the idea of like Illuminati and stuff like that. And, you know, obviously the Bavarian Illuminati was just one particular sect of many different types of sects of Masonry. And I'm not saying that A-Trak is Illuminati, but, you know, obviously he is a Mason, and he's got his hat, and, some Masons are Illuminati, you know, and there are Masonic lodges that, help run the music industry, or, give people certain privileges. And also there's a lot of theft, a lot of Masonic lodges hold a lot of secrets, and many of those secrets have been stolen over the years from different cultures, amalgamated from different cultures, from burnings of libraries. We know the Pope has, all types of libraries and hidden books, underneath the Vatican. And, how that relates to all this is that we're going to look into all the articles of A-Trak actually, telling different, hundreds and hundreds of press outlets around the world that he invented this system. And notice how they're not looking at the camera when they they looked at it for a second. Oh, that's Chi. I forget how to pronounce her name, but she's like a hip hop muse. But yeah, so you guys saw that. All right, let's go back to all this. So we know this stuff came out. This is the first time anybody had ever seen this, actually, when he posted this in 2021. Nobody had seen these sheets of papers that he probably helped, to put his slideshow together way back then, because this is basically everything that was in his slideshow and everything that he showed at Red Bull in South Africa, what I just showed y'all. But this is what was actually on that sheet of paper. So we have conclusive proof that A-Trak did not, one, that he did not invent Skratch notation, and two, that he lied about inventing Skratch notation at ScratchCon 2000, and then admitted that he just created a system after seeing my system at ScratchCon 2000 and at in 2003 at Red Bull. He admitted that he had just recently made the system a few years ago, right? And if you look up the word a few is definitely less than 3. It's not 5-7 years ago, right? Okay, so let's see. We've done that. So let's look at some of the actual the damage that it caused over the years, right? So like let's look at EDM.com. Read A-Trak's early 2000s notes. So imagine me presenting press releases to these places and trying to reconvince people that all these EDM people that I created this. And also the EDM movement also kind of connects with what I was saying was going on with the racial stuff and ethnic stuff and European DJs stealing from black DJs, or European rock artists stealing from black rock artists. We see the same type of cycles kind of going over and over again. So let's read this, because remember, EDM was kind of a kind of ethnicity based genre that was just using all of the techniques of black techno artists and house, techno, drum and bass, all these jungle, all these black art forms, and kind of putting them all into one, progressive trance and adding everything together, and dubstep as well. Dead Prez invented dubstep. Obviously, before that song Hip Hop, Dead Prez wobble bass line on the one with dropouts on the one came out before Burial and all that BBC propaganda. Remember the Queen and the Crown, the King owns BBC, Right. So let's read this. So read A-Trak's early 2000s notes showing how he visualized the art of scratching. Right. So we know this is a lie, and this is recent. Take a glimpse into that logic that propelled one of the greatest turntables to such great heights. If you've ever watched a DJ scratching, and notice how there's no scratch notation videos, or you never see him teaching it or whatever, or writing his routine in it. He just copied my presentation and did a presentation on it. He just he saw my book and just copied it, right? If you ever watch a DJ scratching in a video and wonder how they could even begin to learn where to start, you're not alone. In fact, it's such a complex art form that even A-Trak had to come up with his own elaborate notation system just to learn the ropes, right? Which is fake because it wasn't a notation system. It's just English words. In a lengthy Instagram post, he took fans behind the scenes of his early career wins, and in the process shared images of his personal notes and frameworks for developing the combos he came up with over 20 years ago. One of the music industry's most renowned DJs, A-Trak, shared a photo of his combo titles, stating that they were a product of how he visualized the art form. It's like calculus for the ears, one fan commented. All right, and the reason I was talking about the Masonry thing was that I was relating to how Masonry connects to colonialism and the erasure of Black history, and in general at the hands of the European diaspora. Okay. So let's open up the old archive. This is I already read that. So while the system earned him the well-deserved title of DSC champion at just 15 years of age, A-Trak admits that fellow artists were critical of his methodical and dorky approach. During his presentation at ScratchCon 2000 conference, A-Trak said he was heckled by DJs who claimed that scratching should be based on a feeling rather than a formula. Despite differing, and remember, they wouldn't let me speak there. And the woman, we could actually go to the ScratchCon video and find it, because the woman that got up there, and people that were talking to him, they weren't heckling him, and that they're heckling him on the crab symbol, being a little crab. They laughed at that, which is funny. Be like, hey, this is a crab. When they have everybody got my system in their grab bag that shows a crab symbol as in actual TTM notation. Despite differing artistic thoughts of the matter, it's intriguing to see the logic that propelled one of the greatest turntablists to such great heights, right? So this is what I have to deal with, as far as, the press, stuff like this, just seeing this all the time, every day. Luckily, we have these videos out. But if you see here, we're just going to look for these keywords, right? And you're going to see, so I put A-Trak notation as the keyword. I forget how to do that refined search, right? But for right now, we're just going to look at it in here. So you can see A-Trak's notation, right? There's one thing right here. This is a book by a Japanese woman, Miyakawa. And a lot of times, people look at stuff that's written in books as if it's more legitimate than something in a blog. But to me, it's all the same. Because somebody can lie in a blog or Wikipedia, or somebody can lie in a book. Obviously a book that's older could be more verified, but people were lying 100 years ago. So to me, all information is good information, but all information could be tainted, obviously. So let's see. In the late 90s, A-Trak developed a notation system for scratching. He gave a lecture about it at ScratchCon 2000, right? So that's 2-3 periodicals so far. Look at this notation system to a bona fide style icon, one of the most recognizable features. So this is in his press release. So for the past 24 years, I've been having to cut through all these algorithms, and because before, if you type DJ notation, his face would pop up first, but now my face is starting to pop up, and just after all these decades of really hard work of constantly giving to this art form, and that's what I was talking about with the DJ Chile videos, is where YouTube will push his video 10 times more than mine. It's like his new video, I think, is a half. It's a push on the way forward, and then a standard 2-click flare, 2-click orbit on the way back. So it's a 2-click orbit on the way back, and on the way forward is just pushing it forward. So it's like it's like push and then watata. It's got 3 sounds in it, so it makes 4 sounds in general. Right? If I do a tutorial like that, it'll be like, it'll be 100 people we'll see it, and then then over the years, it'll gain traction. But there's some type of block on me on this channel where even though this is the source of TTM notation, they're gonna block TTM notation, and maybe they I'm sure Leo has it in his algorithm somewhere of what my ethnicity is, which should be illegal in the future. Your ethnicity shouldn't be a data point that Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or anybody is saving, because once you save a racial or ethnic based data point, you're admitting that you're racially profiling. That's called racial profiling or ethnic profiling. So we're gonna throttle this person or shadow ban this person based on their ethnicity, which should be illegal. And a top woman from Ethiopian woman from Google actually exposed all that stuff, and they fired her, and she's been campaigning about that for years. But this is literally plagiarization, 24 years of plagiarization, and impersonation as well, right? He's basically impersonating me, all right? So let's actually read the source before we get into all the press outlets that have been, posting all the false information. Let's get to the actual source of all this, his actual press release. So we're on the Fool's Gold website. All right, and it says A-Trak, at a time when the DJ sits firmly at the center of a popular DJ culture, A-Trak stands out as MPV, the key participant who holds together all facets of the craft. Very few share his mastery of turntablism while also sitting at the forefront of musical innovation, looking keenly to the future with history tucked in his back pocket. Right? So we're talking about history here, and this is very important. A true connector, Trizzy hops effortlessly from colossal festival stages to sold-out concerts, venues, and sweaty underground clubs, building links between hip-hop and electronic music while watching genre barriers crumble. After spending years as Kanye West's tour DJ and consigliere, he founded the celebrated record label Fool's Gold in 2007, and we're talking about Fool's Gold now, right, of fake gold, and we know that he's had the fake notation. So it's very, very interesting how people tend to allude to things that they actually do, right? And developed the careers of artists such as Kid Cudi, Danny Brown, Flosstradamus. With its strings of releases and parties, Fool's Gold broke down bygone rules of the record industry, paving the way for a new wave of independence and helping to make North American electro a dominating force. As a Grammy-nominated producer, A-Trak's seminal mix of Yeah Yeah Yeahs heads the world market as an entire generation's introduction to dance music. Duck Sauce, his irreverent collaboration with Armand Van Helden, flipped the bird to chart-topping formulas and reached #1 in 12 countries with the ubiquitous Barbra Streisand, electronic music's first true viral music video. A-Trak easily segues from working with EDM's elite to revitalizing rap superheroes, launching Federal Reserve with Cameron and Low Pros with Lex Luger. He casually picked up 3 VMA nominations along the way. Not bad for a kid from Montreal who was once known as a 90s turntable prodigy. As a teenager, he brought home every DJ title known to man, starting with the 1997 DMC World Championship and holding a record-breaking 5 titles by the time he was 18. Meanwhile, as his older brother Dave morphed into the lead singing Lothario in the acclaimed electro-pop sensation Chromeo, Elaine grew from a nerdy teen who created an elaborate scratch notation system to a bona fide style icon and one of the most recognizable figures in the DJ scene. And he recently appeared in campaigns for Adidas, Grey Goose, Cadillac, and graced the covers of Billboard and Complex. So I'm not going to read the rest of it, but we got to that part where they talk about the scratch notation. So this has been part of his press release for his whole career. He's been using this to forward himself for all these years, and we're going to look at some of the actual impacts from Google, right? So we saw the EDM article. Now this is a book by Felicia M. Miyakawa, Tablature, Notation, Legitimization, and the Art of Hip Hop. It's a very old book, and she talks about different notation systems that are out there, my system, and then she talks about A-Traks as if it's a different system. This essay explores the basic premises of 3 scratch notation styles developed by DJs and turntablists. I believe it was mine, and then A-Trak's plagiarization of my system, and then I think she had Steven Weber's system in there, or maybe the antimatter thing. So either either Stephen Weather's classical or DJ Radar's classical, which was done by a guy named Raoul, the actual composer of Antimatter. But yeah, so just for just for the impact, you can see how much damage is done. So we're just gonna look at this. Let's go back. All right, so we see it's we've got our count is like 4 so far, right? For fake articles, right? So among the proponents for a new Skratch notation system is Canada's DJ A-Trak, one of turntablism superstars. Let's click on that. Right, so like A-Trak's notation in the turntablist transcription methodology replicates the mechanics of making sound. So they're saying obviously there's similarities because he plagiarized my system, right? So among the proponents for a new Skratch notation system is Canada's DJ A-Trak, one of turntablism's superstars, right? So we can see that it's done a lot of damage. Like this is a book published in 2009. I've seen this book in libraries. And it's just kind of trippy to just kind of go around and just see, how far our lives can actually go, and they can go pretty far. So let's see. So this is abc.net, A-Trak, ABC Rage. In the late 90s, A-Trak develops a notation system for scratching. He gave a lecture about it at ScratchCon 2000 conference, blah, 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 Australian Broadcasting Corporation, right? You can see this article right here. So it's just article after article after article after article, right? So yeah, in the late 1990s, A-Trak developed a notation system for scratching, right? In the late 90s, that's fake. There's no proof of this, right? And he just admitted that he didn't do it. So he gave a lecture about it at ScratchCon 2000 conference and had an article published in Tableist magazine, a magazine that he put out himself, him and his crew, the Allies, right? All right, and at a certain point, I'm gonna actually screenshot all these. I'm not gonna do it in the lecture because I don't want all y'all to have to trudge through all that with me. But I'm gonna screenshot all these, if I do intend to, file a lawsuit in the future, because this is just, it's just too much, right? 24 years of this, right? So you can see, let's see what the little thing at the blurb says so I can find it easier. So yeah, A-Trak 2020 notation system to a bona fide style icon, the most recognizable figure in the DJ scene, right? Super modified agency. I guess that's one of his booking agencies for a different country, for international or I'm not sure which country, but all right. So yeah, so that's that same book by Leica. A-Trak has remained a staple in DJ and electronic. Let's see, DJ Tech Tools. Let's see if it says that in there. Because it's just been copied so many times. It's really, really mind-blowing if you see how many times the lie has been copied, right? So let's skim through this. Staple of DJ for over 2 decades. Evolution DJing. Project with his brother Dave. I don't see anything here about notation. I guess this is an article where they're asking him some questions or stuff like that. But it's just countless ads. Articles and books and publications. And then, it's just, you can see how over the years it just gets stacked on top of each other. And, I'm not even going to look through it up, look for it in there, it's somewhere in here where he's saying that he invented Skratch notation, right? And I'm just trying to skim through to see if I can see it real quick, but let's see. All right, so let's just go back. So yeah, Bandcamp, oral history. So yeah, Mixmag, A-Trak's journey with the turntables. So it's a turntable that has a bunch of buttons and allow you to play notes. Let's see. I'm just gonna look for notation in the first line blurb. So like Apple Music, you see it right here. It's endless. Like you could literally find hundreds of these, And then when you compile all those together and say, okay, there's hundreds of times that we see that he's lying, and you see that it's replicated hundreds of times. I don't even see where it says all that stuff. It's just, oh, there it is. And it's gonna talk about notation somewhere. Let's see more. There we go. So this is on Apple Music. So it's like, now if I'm posting my stuff on Apple, I have to, go around all this stuff, right? He's giving us lectures and publishing essays about his unique method of Scratch notation, right? A unique method, right? Y'all see that. All right, so it's just over and over and over and over and over again. I have to deal with all these things, you know? Let's see. A-Trak music and download. No, I'm just going to look for it in the thing. Let's see. Yeah, architect of a notation, right? So everybody's calling him architect of my notation, right? He has no proof, and he admits to seeing my notation first and copying it, basically. All right, so before, you know, it was just a kid messing around his dad's, you know, all these people are talking about it. So let's just look for notation in the ad. Let's see. Okay, value of TTM notation. DJ Tech Tools. Let's see what this is about. See, look, A-Trak is one of the few turntablists who understands the use of TTM notation, right? And he's been saying that he invented it all this time, right? But yeah, so let's keep skipping through. All right. And you see it. Y'all see that it's just nonstop. All right, let's see it anymore. Let's see hip. I mean, it's going to go on forever. You know, so notation thing, 2000, you see right here, A-Trak music and edits and beat source. Let's see. We're going to keep looking for some more notation stuff. Let's see. Yeah. So, yeah, early 2000s notes showing how he visualized the arts of scratching. That's what we just read. Apple Music. There's hundreds of these. You know, the Spill magazine, A-Trak and the Loop. A-Trak even developed a notation system for scratching in the late 90s, right? All this late 90s stuff that we saw on Wikipedia. So if you're a Wikipedia editor, please change that, because there's no proof of him doing it in the late 90s. He even says he didn't do it in the late 90s, right? He was just writing the names of scratches down. All right, A-Trak's, let's see. Let's keep going. A-Trak net worth. Let's skip that. But it is, let's look at celebrity net worth, because that's not a bad thing to look at, because it does, you know, connect to all this stuff we were saying, especially about the colonialism stuff. So it says 12 million. And how did he get to 12 million? You notice that with his career, a lot of that stuff was using black artists like myself to get into higher levels, whether it was for Kanye, whether it was Cameron or whoever, or whether it was black women, or using black men as a medium to make us look like Sambos. In this picture right here, you can see it's clearly this is like you know, very racialized deprecation. You know, like if somebody were to do this, if somebody were to just have one ethnicity be up as strippers in their set, you know, one might find that, you know, targeted. You know, he's clearly targeting black women with this, and he's clearly targeting black men with this, right? And look, he's cutting the guy's hair. The guy's eyes are bugged out. We didn't really talk about this that much in the Kubert video, the last video that we just posted, but the Kubert Craze beef video. But, you know, this is very important because it just relates to colonialism and who's making the money. And you can see it's, you know, you're in diaspora, people of, you know, the Masonic faith, right? All right, so let's go back to here. Google, we saw that. All right, saw his net worth. So let's see. I'm just gonna see if it says notation in the comment. I mean, in these lines, these blurbs. All right, so yeah, so A-Trak tickets at Light Nightclub. A-Trak is giving speeches about his foundation of a notation scratching system at ScratchCon, adding to his published work. Blah blah blah. Bloomberg, right? A-Trak works it out remixes. Let's see. So yeah, Complex Magazine. A-Trak talks the Goldie Awards, Quavo, and he's the kind of guy who developed a notation system for scratching. His career took him. So everybody's repeating this, and so it's like, you know, well, I'm supposed to send you know, press releases to every single one of these people and say, no, this isn't real and this has changed or whatever. So it says, let's keep going through these. The world's best-selling music notation. Oh, whoops, that's something else. Let's click more results. Yeah, I mean, and it goes on forever, really. Like, it really, literally goes on forever. And I'm gonna compile them all in one video, but this, you know, maybe that's another video, and that's this more of a, you know, just me accumulating evidence, right? A-Trak also developed a notation system for scratching, essentially starting to the naysayers, yes, the art form is music no matter who you are. Boring. So you can see he's basically impersonating me. This for 24 years, A-Trak's been impersonating my work and plagiarizing my work. All right, so let's see if there's any more things that say notation. He contributed to a music notation system for turntablists, DJ times, right? It just keeps going. All right. Let's see. A-Trak on Pitchfork. And I'm sure they're saying something about it because it's coming up here, you know. But I'm just looking for things that specifically say the notation in the line. All right, so it looks like, all right. But yeah, this is kind of like ad nauseum. I don't want to go through all these a million. You know, there's a million of them. I just want y'all to see how it just kind of endlessly goes. A-Trak is one of those who deserves to have the. He also developed an original system notation for scratching in the late '90s, right? So this just shows you having the right press people. They can put out stuff that's not real and people take it as true, right? And you know, so most of these articles speak about that, even if it's not saying in the line, it's coming up because it's probably saying it in the next line or two. So yeah, Maklovich developed a notation system for transcribing scratches, right? And we know these are lies, right? We just proved it. All right, so let's see. A-Trak, record producer, fools. We'll see more. You know, it just keeps going on. Let's see. A-Trak, music notation for the turntable. All right. So yeah, let's click on this. All right, notation in the United States. Any graphic means of representation of musical sounds. You know, people always try to write me out of history. But let's see. This might just be something that has nothing to do with it. Oh, I see. Yeah, the Miyakawa thing goes back to that. All right, so let's get out of there. All right, so yeah, so I think we're about to wrap it up. You know, because y'all get the picture, right? And then we're gonna have to do a whole Alex Sonnenfeld expose too, with all his lies over the years. And for those of y'all don't know, if you go back to the Sampling Music Festival when I performed there in 2016, he deleted all that. You know, he deleted all that because he tried to join up with John and try to go around me and release the Skratch program or whatever. But obviously nobody's buying it. A couple of people bought it. Nobody's buying it, and you know even a friend of mine was actually at John's lecture at Sample Music Festival a couple years ago, and he said John didn't even know what he was talking about, you know. But we're going to go into that stuff later because they've done some recent plagiarism stuff too. All right, so yeah, Fact Magazine, all these things, you know, everybody's just talking about it, you know. Let's see. Any more with notation in the top line? Yeah, so they're all just talking about it. And yeah, I'm not going to pull up anymore. There's millions of these. There's literally, it goes really, really far. Like, one point I tried to screenshot them all, but it's literally too many to screenshot, you know? So yeah, I had a column in Skratch magazine for like a year and a half where they were using my transcriptions of classic Skratch notation. And then you can see right here, A-Trak's name is right next to it, almost like he did it, but obviously it was me. It says exclusive DJ Battle transcriptions with Dr. Dre in the cover, you know, Kanye West in the cover, exclusive DJ Battle transcriptions, A-Trak, Shortcut, right, exclusive DJ Battle transcriptions, Scott Storch, Secrets, Scott Storch Secrets. So you can see, you know, so as far as like confusion and who invented it, a lot of this stuff was overlapping to where people were confused, and people saw this DJ Battle transcription and then they think, oh yeah, this is A-Trak, and this A-Trak's DJ. I mean, A-Trak's the DJ for Kanye, and you know, A-Trak was telling Kanye for years that he invented my system. So it's like the next time that I see Kanye, I gotta be like, hey, you know, that was me that it did that whole Skratch notation system. A-Trak was lying to you. Right, because actually I was modeling on this Benjamin Millipede. It was the Yves Saint Laurent shoot, and Kanye actually rolled up and was just like watching us. This was like over a decade ago, like before Benjamin Millepied married Natalie Portman. I was in Black Swan too, but yeah. So he came up to me. He's like, "What's up?" And Kanye was down to earth even then. Talking to regular people when he didn't have to. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting to see this on the same cover, DJ Battle Transcriptions, my work with the person that's been plagiarizing with it, for decades. It's like, did he pull a string to get his name right next to there, or whatever? It's just like, it's just very, very interesting, very, very interesting subject. So yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, so I may sue him in the future, but I got bigger fish to fry. So all right, I'll catch y'all later. Peace.